Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to host an epic open house. If this is your first time to the channel, please consider hitting that like button and tapping that bell for notifications so that you'll be the first to know when a video is uploaded each and every week. So when you think about real estate, you definitely think about open houses. And open houses are a great way to get business, especially if you are just trying to get your footing in the real estate industry. Open houses do not cost a lot of money. They do cost some time, but you won't have to spend a lot of money and have a lot of output in your budget in order to have people coming through the door and you are connecting with them in order to then generate clients. So in order to host a successful open house, you have got to prepare and start with doing that about a week in advance. So anywhere from say 5 to 7 days before you're going to hold the open house, you are going to be wanting to create a video of you walking through the house. You're going to want to create your marketing materials for social media. So get your verbiage and your copy ready for Facebook, for Instagram. Recommend getting it ready to run a Facebook ad as well. And then about 3 days before the open house, start filtering that marketing out. So you don't want to do it all at once. You want to keep teasing people. I recommend starting with the video of you walking through and showcasing the house. If you can create a reel for Instagram, that would be bonus and definitely get you more views. And then each day you want to space out the material that you have created and share it so that you are building the buzz for this open house. At the same time, you are filtering this content out anywhere from 3 to 4 days before the open house. You want to also start marketing it. So you want to add the date and time to the MLS. You want to add it to Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia. I would still add it to Craigslist. People do still go there, believe it or not. And start sharing this with everyone that you possibly can. So you want to build a bigger footprint to be able to drive traffic to your open house. The other thing you can do is create an event on Facebook and then run an ad so that you are sharing that you're having this open house with people in the area. Depending on what your ad spend budget is probably going to depend on how many zip codes you can market to. But I would recommend having a minimum budget of $10 per day. And if you're doing it, say 4 to 5 days in advance of the open house, you're still only looking at about $40 to $50. If you don't have the budget for this, don't worry about it. There are plenty of free ways to market your open house, and we're going to cover those a little bit later in the video. A couple days before your open house, you also want to print out what you're going to physically have in the open house for visitors. So at a minimum, you definitely need the MLS printout so that people have information about the property. But I would recommend having a little bit more than just your MLS printout. You could also consider having team up with a loan officer and they could print out either some rate sheet or actually do some example scenarios of with X down payment, the payment on this property would be this, to give people an idea of what their monthly spend would be if they were to purchase the property. Relocation guides are also very popular and well received to have in open houses. If you don't already have a relocation guide and you're getting ready to have an open house in the next few days, no worries, just get one done so that in your next open house, that's something that you can hand out. Another thing that's very valuable to have in an open house is information about the area. I use listreports.com and they have, it's super easy. You can just print out, I do it double-sided, full color, print out the information that they already have laid out about the area. If you're not a member of listreports.com, I'm sure you can find a lender who is, and they can actually give you access to an account for free. That's what I do. It's a great benefit, and you can also use it when you actually have listings too. It's a great way to market them. The other thing that you're going to want to print out ahead of your open house is what I call a visitor card. They're also called guest cards. Just use anything other than a sign-in sheet. I cannot stand sign-in sheets. They are not helpful because what happens with a sign-in sheet is one of two things, maybe three things. One, people, they come in, yes, they list their name, maybe their address, maybe their email and phone number. Sometimes they're not correct and you don't have the opportunity to carry around an entire sign-in sheet to then try to get the correct information. That's problem number one. Problem number two is if you have a really busy open house and everyone has signed in, you're going to have a difficult time remembering who you actually had a conversation with versus who came in and you didn't get a chance to talk with them. And that can make your follow-up a lot harder than if you use guest cards, visitor cards, whatever you want to call them, and they are set for their individual. So I use a half a sheet of paper for each visitor card. And yes, it has name, contact information, the basics, but then it also has some additional questions, such as on mine, I have, when are you looking to move? Do you already live in the area or are you relocating? Are you working with an agent? And how did you hear about this open house? Now, and not everyone fills them in all the time, and that's fine. As long as for my sellers, I get contact information, we're good. Check that box. But it is really helpful if people do fill them in because then I have a better chance of remembering exactly who that was at the open house so that when I follow up with them, I don't have to take a generic approach. I can relate back to maybe we had a quick conversation or there was something we connected on and I can use that in my follow-up. The other thing about these visitor cards, depending on how busy your open house is, if it's not super busy, let them look around and then you can have the card with you when they finish touring the house and you can actually write information on it to fill it out for yourself. They don't even have to worry about it and then you're still getting more information than just basic contact info that may or may not even be correct. And with these cards, the other thing that I like to do if I'm having a conversation with the person, they filled out the card. Once we're ending that conversation, I will actually confirm their contact info. That gives you one more chance to see if you can get accurate info. Sometimes they have listed their correct phone number and email address. Sometimes they will say, oh, let me give you a better phone number or let me give you a better email, and then you can use that to follow up with them. If anyone pushes back about signing in with their name and basic contact info, my first response is my sellers respectfully ask that you sign in for safety reasons. And if they still push back on that, quite honestly, I just let them know that I'm sorry, unless you sign in, I cannot let you tour this home. And that rarely happens, especially if you lead in with saying my sellers. Put it on your sellers that they're the ones who want the contact info, which they do. You're not being dishonest. You're going to be sharing who came through this open house after it's over with your clients. But it takes a little bit of pressure off of you that, you're not this slimy salesperson who's just looking to get their contact information so that you can bombard them. That's not the point of this. We're trying to develop a relationship. But you do need people to sign in. You can't just let a bunch of random people wander around the house that you have no control of and no way of contacting in the event that you need to follow up on something that may have happened at the open house. The other thing that you're going to want to prepare a couple days before you're set to host your open house is if you don't already have a sign printed out, you're going to want to print a sign that says, please wear provided shoe covers or remove your shoes. No sellers want people wandering around their beautiful home that's ready for the market in their grungy shoes. So it is important that you have people either take them off or bring shoe covers with you. And with the shoe covers, you're also going to want some type of basket to put them in. You can buy something super cheap that's, a couple bucks, or if you really just are on a super tight budget, you can use a cardboard box and honestly wrap it in some wrapping paper and call it a day. As your budget grows, I would recommend getting some type of attractive basket or even an upscale trash can. You can go to Home Goods and get them for, probably $20, $25. But that's not a must. You can definitely make it work with something that will cost you a couple bucks in wrapping paper if your budget just doesn't permit for you to have something a little more upscale. You just need a way to be able to present the shoe covers so that people can put them on. The other thing with shoe covers. Give them a place to put them on. If this house does not have some chairs that they could easily sit in nearby, bring a couple chairs with you. There's nothing worse than, hopping around trying to get your shoe covers on. I don't care if it's an open house or if it's a listing that people are trying to show. Give them a place to sit down and put the covers on. The day before you are set to hold your open house, get those signs out. Do not wait until the day of. Signs are one of the biggest traffic drivers that get people through an open house. I recommend putting out at least 15 signs, preferably more. In this area, particularly in Fairfax County, if you are having an open house on Saturday, be sure you do not start putting your signs out until after 4 p.m. on Friday, because if you do it before, you stand a pretty strong chance of Fairfax County taking your signs, and you actually have to pay to get them out of what I call sign jail. So just be mindful of whatever your county or state regulations are for putting out signs. Our easy workaround in this area is just do it after 4 p.m. on a Friday and pick them up before the weekend's over, and you will definitely not have as many lost. Not saying that there aren't some citizens that may steal your signs. I've definitely had that happen before. So be prepared that you're gonna have some type of sign loss as you're doing these open houses. It just happens. The day before or the morning of, depending on how well you retain information, study the property information. You are going to get so many questions at an open house from potential buyers and just visitors in general. So you want to be prepared to know the age of all the major systems in the home. So HVAC, water heater, roof, know all of those and be able to just say them off the top of your head. Know what schools that property ties into. You will definitely get questions about schools, particularly if it's a townhouse or a single family. And the other thing that you're going to want to know about, if it's in an HOA or if it's part of a condo association, you're definitely going to want to know what is included in the HOA or the condo dues, along with any amenities that members of that community are able to access. You, without a doubt, will get questions about that. On the day of your open house, you're going to want to get there about an hour ahead of time. And the reason for that is you're going to want to go through the house, get all the lights on, open all the blinds, let as much natural light in as possible. You're going to want to set up all of your printouts, get your shoe cover station set up. And then I always like to bring some balloons or a flag, something that's going to catch potential visitors' eye as they're coming by the house so they know where to stop. Those I always put out the day of, because if it's balloons, they definitely won't last overnight. And get yourself situated. I also like to play some music. I have a little just tiny speaker that I run off of my phone throughout the open house. I set it up not too loud, but it's super awkward in the house when it's just quiet and everyone's standing around. Get a little background music going, create a little vibe in the house, and set it up so that people feel comfortable to go through the home and not awkward when they walk in and it's just silent. The other reason that you want to get to the open house a little bit ahead of time is you want to determine where you're going to be standing when you're going to be greeting people as they come in. You don't want to be, right by the door like, hey, welcome to this open house. That's weird and awkward. But you do want to have a view of the front door because you want to know when people are coming in and when they're also leaving. So decide what's going to be the best setup for you. Preferably ahead of time. You obviously know the layout of this house, so that may help you determine if you need to bring a little table or a chair for yourself in order to be in the best position to greet visitors. Then when visitors actually start coming into the open house, obviously welcome them. Let them know that the sellers respectfully ask that they fill out the visitor card, and then let them go look around. It is so annoying when agents follow visitors to open houses, through open houses, and they're asking them questions the whole time. And I relate it to, it reminds me of when a seller stays in their home for a showing and you're just like, oh my gosh, just get me out of here. Your clients feel awkward. You feel awkward. Don't follow people around. Let them check the place out. And then while they're before they check the place out, say to them, hey, look around, enjoy the place, check it out. And then before you leave, stop by and see me. I've just got a couple quick questions for you. 9 times out of 10, people will absolutely stop back by to have a conversation with you. It takes the pressure off of them and it allows them to make comments amongst themselves of what they do and don't like about the house. When they do stop back by before they're headed out the door, that's your opportunity to get a feel of whether or not they like the house. You are not going to sell anyone a house. You can't push a house on anyone. That's not how it works. You're trying to get a better understanding and you will feel the vibe and tone from them of, do they really like this house or is there just no interest? It makes no difference either way. What you're trying to do is get a connection with people, whether they buy this house or not. Maybe they're neighbors and they're thinking about selling, and that comes out in the conversation at the end of them looking around this house. Great, fantastic. Make that connection. Don't be salesy with them. Just try to get a feel of whether or not they're interested in the house or whatever their situation is. I've got a couple bonus tips of how to drive even more traffic into your open house. They will not cost you anything other than your time. The first one is 2 days before your open house, print out a bunch of flyers about the open, door knock the entire neighborhood, inviting the neighbors. You are not soliciting anything, so even if it says no soliciting per the HOA, you're not soliciting. You are inviting them to an event. Knock, let them know, hey, I just wanted to invite you to this open house. Neighbors are more than welcome to come by. Would love to have you there. Here's the time, here's the date. And then follow up at the very end and say, by the way, we're gonna open it up exclusively to neighbors 30 minutes before the start of the open. So if your open starts at 1, let them know you're more than welcome to come by starting at 12:30. It's neighbors only for that 30 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and open it up to the public. Bonus tip number 2, I mentioned earlier in this video, if you don't have the budget or maybe you just don't want to run a Facebook ad, something else that you can do to get a lot more exposure at your open house is when you get there an hour ahead of it starting, go live. Go live on Facebook, go live on Instagram, let people know where you are, what you're doing, and drive that traffic to that open house. It's just an added bonus to be able to get more exposure. We all know Facebook, Instagram, they all reward us for when we go live. So it's a great way to try to reach more people while not having to come out of your pocket to do it. My last tip for hosting an open house is only have it for 2 hours. I see so many agents holding them for 3 hours, and what I recommend is having one from either 11 to 1 or you can do 1 to 3. They don't need to be 3 hours long. 2 hours is plenty of time to drive people through, and it actually benefits you because you're giving them a more condensed time frame to get there, which means more people through in a shorter amount of time, and that gives you better odds of having multiple visitors in there at one time, which creates a better buzz for your open house and hopefully in turn for your sellers, then drives an offer to come in. Thanks for tuning in today. If you got some value from this video, please consider giving it a like or leaving a comment below. I would greatly appreciate it. As always, thank you all for watching, and I will see you next week. Take care.